Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. So lately I've noticed that every time I feel stressed or bored or overwhelmed, I've been reaching for my phone a lot, and I end up telling myself I'm just checking something really quick, but then 40 minutes are gone and I realized I wasn't actually looking for my phone. I was actually looking for comfort, distraction, or a break. So I decided to replace that habit with something that's actually helping me slow down, which is my planner. And this doesn't have to be, this kind of planner. It can be like any notebook, preferably something that's easy to carry around with you. But I definitely think there's a way to slow down when you have paper and pen. And I'm finding that it's a really good tool to help you be more aware and reflect and find healthier ways to meet your needs. And so this video is more about trying to fix the doom scrolling habit by using this kind of planner or, yes, like a notebook or something like that. So the first step is definitely going to be awareness. And I wrote this down in my planner, basically these like phone checks, and I wrote it down on a sticky note. So first, I just want to mention I decorated my cover page a little bit to make it more fall themed. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, added some like pumpkins and like, spooky stickers for Halloween. And then, yeah, this sticky note, I just wrote it right here in the beginning, and mostly writing down like this is my phone checks, writing down the date, and also why, like how I'm like why I'm checking my phone, and also the feeling that I have basically. So for example, on a sticky note, I write down, yeah, the time. I write down why I wanted to check it and what I was feeling in that moment. And basically, like for example, I say at this time, I really wanted to check my Instagram. And the feeling that I had in that moment was, I wanted to avoid work and I wanted to procrastinate because I was feeling stuck. So yeah, and then I ended up scrolling for 40 minutes. And, feeling afterwards is like, I'm not feeling great about it. And it's just really, this is like the awareness part of it, of, I was avoiding work and I needed to turn my brain off, and realizing that I was just feeling stuck in my research and I just needed a mental break. But I find that scrolling is not a mental break, and it definitely, there's a lot of, you're getting a dopamine hit basically. And I just think it's a habit that I've been trying to get better at. And I think, yeah, the first step is just awareness of this habit and why you're doing it and what your unmet needs are. So the next thing is understanding your triggers, understanding what needs, basically your unmet needs. And this is the first time I really wrote these things down, but I realize you start to recognize a pattern. And for me, that's always been trying to escape or needing this dopamine fix or wanting to procrastinate. I've been feeling really overwhelmed because I'm in my last year of the PhD. So it's a very stressful time, and I'm finding that these bad habits do tend to take over. And yeah, I think you're trying to understand your patterns. You're trying to understand what these unmet needs are so that you can try to not fix your problem, but figure out, okay, what do I need when I'm feeling this way? What do I do when I'm overwhelmed? What do I do when I'm feeling stressed? And I think it's really important to understand what those things are and figure out, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Maybe I need to go for a walk, or I'm feeling stressed. So maybe I need to go meditate or do yoga. So that's kind of the next step, is reflecting. So for reflecting, I definitely think there's a lot of things you can do here. And specifically in my planner, I like to have a section for like research tasks. So yeah, here I just have like my to-do list, my calendar, and then these are like my weekly sections. But this just helps me plan out my weeks. But I definitely think this is like my research notes section, and I always have this open when I'm working on my research to help me focus a little bit more. And yeah, like here I have like a distraction list whenever I'm like, oh, I really want to scroll or something, I'll write that down here. But basically, in my research notes section, it really helps me to reflect on what I've been working on. And I write down like the days of the week. So, like at the end of the week, or sometimes the day of, I'll write down like Monday, this is like what I worked on for that day. And when I overview for the week of like, what have I done basically, it feels like I'm making progress, because in the PhD sometimes it feels like a marathon, because there's, you know, it's really hard to see the end of it, and you've been doing it for so long, and it's sometimes hard to see the progress that you're making. So I'm able to refer back to what I've worked on, and it helps me see that there is progress, even though there's still so much more that you have to do. So yeah, having my planner next to me when I'm working helps me stay present when I am working, instead of looking at my phone when things are getting really tough. And I typically have this out, and then I have my phone like in a drawer or something, and I typically, I set blocks of time that I'm going to work. And yeah, that's kind of like the next strategy, I would say, is writing down like your time blocking and like daily things that you're going to work on. And this really helps me stay focused, because I'm like, I wrote this down, and I'm like, this time and this time I'm going to be working on these tasks. And that really does help a lot for me. Another part of reflecting is writing down, like journaling, and trying to understand, what's going on with these patterns, going back to these habits when you are feeling overwhelmed. And so I definitely have another section on journaling. And yeah, here I just like write down like for a day. I try to write down every day, like fill up a little page here, because it feels less overwhelming than like a bigger planner. So when I have a lot to write down, I will definitely go into this planner and write down like all of my thoughts. And I know I'm going through it when I'm writing down like pages and pages of things. But I don't feel like this every single day. And it's really nice to have like a daily goal of like writing down this page for journaling. And so I definitely think journaling has been really insightful in so many different ways, because whenever I have these overwhelming thoughts, I just write it down, and I can see like, okay, this is what's going on. And I realize things come up once you start writing, and you're like, oh wow, I've written out all this stuff. And of course, it helps just to get your thoughts down onto paper. And so this is definitely a good tool for reflection and trying to refocus why you're doing, having these, they're kind of like, I don't want to say like it's a bad habit. And I think it's okay to scroll sometimes, but having more intention with it, and trying to make it so when you are scrolling, it's not like mindless, and you're not like doom scrolling and stuff like that, and hours have gone by. So I don't think necessarily scrolling is a bad thing. It's just you always want to be able to stop scrolling whenever, you have a goal of like, I'm only scrolling 30 minutes a day. And it's easy for you to cut that off and finish scrolling at 30 minutes. And everybody has different goals for sure. And so the next step I would say is finding alternatives. And this can be so many different things. I kind of wrote down a little list here too. But basically, doing these phone checks have been really helpful for like the first step. And then figuring out, what the unmet needs are, and then journaling about it, or, however you process your thoughts. And these alternatives, I would say, really help when you're like, oh, I just want to turn my brain off and I don't want to do anything. And instead of that habitual, like, I want to go scroll on my phone, I would say it's really nice to have like a list like this to figure out, okay, I can do something else instead. So yeah, these are some of ideas that I've thought of for alternatives, because I'm definitely still working through this as well. Like, I'm not perfect at all. And I find myself scrolling even though I told myself a million times, like, I'm done doing this. And yeah, I wrote down like journaling. I'm also looking into ideas of like creating a personal curriculum, which I'll talk about in a bit. Also, habit tracking, a dopamine menu, creating a TBR, experimenting with planners. So, like looking at other types of planners as well for journaling, and a meal planner. Also, having like a morning routine checklist. So, these are things I want to implement into my planner. And when I find myself, going towards like my phone, I find that this really helps to have like everything, all of my ideas inside a planner. Whenever I have, want to journal, whenever I have an idea, it's just so nice to have this next to me and figure out, okay, when inspiration hits, I can just go in and just write down what I'm feeling. So yeah, I think I have a few of these already in my planner. So like journaling, I just showed you. I'm writing down like a personal curriculum, which this is definitely new for me. And, when I'm in a PhD, it feels like I'm always learning, but I never get to like look at my own interest. Yes, so here I wrote down my personal curriculum, and these are things that I've always wanted to explore. And for example, like creative writing, I've always, like, I took a class in creative writing in community college and I loved it. And I found that it was such like a therapeutic thing to do. So it's something I definitely want to learn more about. Also, digital art and like sticker design, because I just think it would be so fun to design like my own stickers and learn more about that process. And also video storytelling. So creating these YouTube videos, learning how to edit, and different video ideas that I can learn. Financial literacy, so like, investing and stuff like that. And I definitely want to take a course in this as well. And public speaking and science communication. So I kind of feel like these go hand in hand, because a lot of my research, I feel like whenever I have to explain this to like the general public, I feel like I struggle a lot, because you get into this such of a niche of a topic that you forget what, the general public doesn't know, because you've been into your topic for so long. And so, yeah, this is something I definitely want to get better at and learn different ways to communicate the science to people. And then for habit tracking, I also have this back here. And so, yeah, this is like my habit tracker over here just to keep me on track. And I also have like a no scrolling, but I put less than 30 minutes because I want to be realistic. I also have stuff like a meal planner in here, a workout planner, and like a weekly reset checklist to help me be on top of things. And then I think everyone should make this dopamine menu, especially for this kind of like trying to avoid doom scrolling and stuff. And this just helps me, you know, see what are different things I can do whenever I'm like, oh, I really want to have a brain off activity or a brain on activity. And that's where the personal curriculum comes in, is like more of a brain on activity, because I feel like, I want to learn these topics. So I want to go look for books on these topics. And I feel like, reading is like, it can be, I feel like that's definitely a brain on activity because you're learning a new subject. But I also put here like coloring or going for a walk is like a brain off activity. So yeah, definitely, I kind of want to turn this into like a checklist like I have here, just to see like what I have done and what I want to do like during the week. I think that would be really nice because sometimes I just feel overwhelmed by like this long list, and I don't always end up doing everything on this list either. So yeah, I think creating the TBR is something that can be done from the personal curriculum. Um, and that's something I definitely want to include in my planner as well. So, I checklist all of the things that I already have in my planner and things I want to implement. And yeah, this is all pretty new for me. And I'm realizing this is really going to help with the phone addiction a little bit because, this is something I can carry around with me. And whenever I do have the urge to check my phone, I can just keep this running note of, this is the time I checked and this is why I wanted to check my phone. And, you're kind of building up a data set basically to figure out why I'm continuously doing this. What am I avoiding? Am I stressed? And sometimes it's hard to tell these things, but I think when you're actively writing down all of these things, like when you're journaling, whenever you're trying to break from these bad habits, I think honestly pen and paper help you slow down and reflect. And honestly, that's why I started this channel, was to try to break my phone addiction and find new tools that help me take a break from screens, because as a PhD student, as someone always doing research, I am on my laptop a lot. And it's been really hard to take a break from it. And I'm finding this has been such a nice tool to help me take a break from the screens, bring back some of my creativity as well, because I've definitely put that on the back burner when starting a PhD, and I'm finding this is such a nice creative outlet for me. And yeah, I highly recommend finding something like that, finding like a passion project as well to help, because yeah, I'm finding instead of scrolling, I can work on this channel. I can learn all these new things that I've been wanting to learn. And I think it's so important to take back our time, from this scrolling and doing all of this. So yeah, I think I've learned that fixing doom scrolling isn't about discipline, really. I think it's more about awareness and understanding why you're reaching out for your phone, and it becomes easier to give yourself what you actually need. And yeah, I think it's definitely been a learning experience still, and I'm still on this journey. So if you're struggling with the same thing, I think it's important to start small. Keep like a sticky note or a small notebook, honestly, like to write down these phone checks, and you might be really surprised about what you learn. So yeah, that's how I've been slowly replacing my phone with my planner. It's definitely still a work in progress, but I'm noticing such a big difference in my focus and how calm my mind feels. So I'd love to know what's been working for you. If you can write it down in the comments. I think we're all trying to be a little bit more mindful with our time, and it's always inspiring to hear what's helping other people too.